Imagine waking up tomorrow with an extraordinary ability. Every object you touch reveals its complete history and future, playing like a movie in your mind. From the morning coffee mug showing its creation in a factory to the ancient ring predicting its fate centuries ahead. Suddenly, every item tells its story. But as we're about to discover, this power would transform our world in ways you'd never expect. Let's start with what seems obvious. Crime would change forever. Touch a murder weapon, and you'd instantly know who wielded it. Touch a stolen painting, and you'd see every hand it passed through. But here's where it gets interesting. Criminals would adapt. They'd start wearing special gloves, not to avoid leaving fingerprints, but to avoid imprinting their future actions onto objects. An entirely new branch of forensics would emerge, focusing on objects' stored memories rather than physical evidence. But the implications run deeper than crime solving. Imagine the antique market turning upside down overnight. That supposedly ancient vase, one touch reveals it was actually made last month in a basement in Ohio. The market for genuine historical artifacts would explode, while a new profession emerges. History authentication experts who can touch and verify an object's true past. Some antiques would skyrocket in value when their touch histories reveal connections to famous historical figures nobody knew about. Here's something less obvious: the emergence of clean object markets. People would start paying premium prices for factory-fresh items that haven't been touched by human hands. Why? Because nobody wants to buy a coffee table and suddenly experience the previous owner's entire family drama. Manufacturers would develop special handling protocols, creating entire factories where robots handle everything to keep objects' histories pristine. Think about the psychological impact. Touch your grandfather's old watch, and you might see both heartwarming memories and uncomfortable truths about his life you were never meant to know. Therapists would need to specialize in helping people cope with unwanted historical knowledge. Support groups would form for people traumatized by accidentally touching objects involved in tragic events. The privacy implications would reshape society. Giving someone a gift would mean sharing a piece of your past and future with them. Dating would transform. Imagine touching your date's phone and seeing their true intentions. We develop new social etiquettes around touching objects, and people would become intensely protective of their personal items. But here's where it gets really fascinating. The future-seeing aspect would create paradoxes. Touch your laptop, see it breaking next week, and decide to be more careful. Does that change the future you just saw? A whole field of philosophy would emerge around these temporal contradictions. Some people would become obsessed with touching objects to glimpse their futures, while others would avoid touching anything to prevent knowing their destiny. The business world would never be the same. Investment firms would hire people with particularly clear object-reading abilities. Touch a company's products, see their future market performance. But this would create new forms of insider trading. How do you regulate knowledge gained from future-sensing abilities? Education would transform too. History classes would involve students touching preserved artifacts to experience events firsthand. But this raises questions. Should children be allowed to touch objects that might show them disturbing historical events? Schools would need policies about appropriate touching age for different historical items. Consider the emergence of history-blocking materials, special coatings, or containers that prevent people from reading an object's past or future. These would become essential for maintaining privacy and preventing information leaks. Governments would classify certain objects as touch-restricted for national security reasons. Real estate would face a revolution. House hunters would know every detail about a property's past and future just by touching the walls. Insurance companies would require touch assessments before issuing policies. But would you want to buy a house if you could see it burning down in 20 years? Museums would transform from look-but-don't-touch institutions into interactive experience centers. But they'd need elaborate systems to prevent visitors from accessing sensitive historical information through touch. Some artifacts might reveal secrets that could rewrite history books or upturn religious beliefs. Perhaps most profoundly, our relationship with everyday objects would change forever. Every item would carry the weight of its complete time length. That simple pencil on your desk. It contains the story of the tree it came from and every word it will ever write. The wedding ring you wear might show you glimpses of your future anniversary celebrations or your divorce. As we wrap our minds around this reality, one question remains. In a world where every object tells its truth, would we really want to know all their stories? Sometimes the most powerful ability might be choosing not to touch, preserving the mystery of what was and what might be.